There are people in Alabama who think merely saying Namaste turns you into a Hindu. I say this with only some mild exaggeration and levity, quoting from a bill just signed into law by the state's governor, KIB, that ended a nearly 30-year-long ban on yoga in K-12 schools. Apart from expressly disallowing Namaste, the law also now says yoga is allowed in public schools as long as it does not require meditation. Chanting, mantras, mudras, use of mandalas, induction of hypnotic states, guided imagery, and namaste greetings shall be expressly prohibited, the bill says. It's a measure of the paranoia that the bill even lays down that only English nomenclature shall be used to describe various poses and exercises, lest using Indian or Hindu nomenclature instantly pushes you over into weird Hindudom. The bill was piloted by State Representative Jeremy Gray, a Democrat whose passionate advocacy of the usefulness of yoga for school students eventually won its reinstatement. However, the amount of caveating done by his Republican colleagues is both absurd and risible. Representative Gray spoke to Mayankshire Reports. First of all, congratulations on your long fought battle's victory. How does it
Hmm.
feel to have won that?
It's kind of bittersweet, just because I thought that I came to a compromise with a bill that was agreed upon in the House by most of my colleagues on the Republican side, and then it kind of basically went through the process in the Senate to get to committee, and then it went on the floor to actually get debated on. It was going to pass, and two senators put some amendments on the bill that I didn't really like, and they put it in a position and at a time that would be hard for me to take the amendments off without killing the bill. So I'm happy I got the bill passed, but it's bittersweet that that those amendments were added in the end, and they were strategic in a way that I couldn't really actually get them out before the session ends. So that's politics for you. But overall, though, it's been a journey, and it's been hard work. And with hard work, there's more hard work, right? So you
Right.
get to a place, and then we'll continue to work on the bill, and I'll continue to try to make it better.
Right.
But I'm happy for the process.
Would you say you were blindsided by what the two Republicans did?
Yes, because they didn't come to me before the bill was on the floor with the amendments. They brought the amendments on the floor, and I'm in the House. So essentially, a senator was carrying it in the Senate. She called me up to actually help with her pass the bill, and when I got up there was like two or three amendments on the floor. We was trying to read them. We was trying to go through them. She had already passed one amendment, which was the worst amendment, and then the second amendment, I tried to amend the best I could, but it was like 10:36 p.m. on a Thursday night, and so I was like, I'm losing votes because I only got 23 votes and I needed 21. So I would have been a few votes short without the amendment. So we took the amendments with the you kind of like with insight that we could go to a conference committee, and change it and talk about it. But the senators, they just ignored me. Kind of gave me the runaround for like 5 days. Well, we hadn't seen the email, we hadn't seen the amendments. Well, I've sent the amendments and I hadn't looked at them yet. Just kind of stalling. And then on that last Monday, May 17th, I didn't hear from them. And so I just decided to concur about 7:36 p.m. on that Monday night. And I kind of, when I was on the floor, I kind of talked about my kind of like disappointment and how I was displeased with the amendments and the senators. It was kind of like my, you know, TED talk, right? My moment to really talk about the bill and what I didn't like about it, that I'll continue to fix the bill. But I thought that we're at least in a good position because now we can lift the ban and now we can work from that instead of killing the bill.
Speaking of amendments, I was reading the language of the bill. that was signed by the governor, it says things like you cannot use the term namaste or you
hmm
cannot meditate. I don't get that kind of thinking. What do you think happened there?
Well, the meditation part is a little tricky because in the meditation part, if you read it, which I thought was a really crazy amendment, it was basically saying in the meditation part that you can't spiritually meditate, but you can meditate on a secular realm, which doesn't make sense. So that meditation part is basically null and void because if you read the end of it, it tells you can do stuff, reflective stuff. You can do it in the secular world, but you can't. How can you even distinguish if someone meditating in the spiritual or the secular world? So that was one of the amendments I didn't like because most people think that you can't do meditation, but if you really read at the bottom, it's talking about a particular kind of meditation which doesn't exist, but that was something that was in the 1993 ban, where you're seeing terms like hypnosis and imagery and dissociative mental I don't know a state, and then meditation. And so that was the amendment that Senator Arthur Orr threw in because that was kind of like the premises around yoga in '93. So that's why I didn't like that amendment. But it doesn't really do anything. The one that I really don't like, you don't hypnosis doesn't matter. The dissociative mental state that doesn't matter. The only one that I kind of had a problem with was imagery, because how can you stop someone from imagining, being able to count to 10 and think about things in your head and being one with yourself? No one can stop you from doing that, but I just thought that was a crazy terminology and definition in that one, because everyone's mind has to do something, right? It
Right.
has to wonder, it has to do something, right? Even if it's still and it's just pitch black, it's still imagery. So I didn't like that, and I didn't like the meditation part. And then one other part I didn't like, it was Senator Dan Roberts' amendment, was about basically saying that yoga was a Hindu religion and not some of Eastern culture that everyone does. So I had an amendment that said it was part of Eastern culture and that everyone does it throughout the world, right? And so I was trying to find a way to keep their amendments that they had, but smooth the language out because a lot of it didn't make sense. And then in the original bill with Namaste, the deal was basically, I wasn't gonna get the bill passed with just yoga as me and you know it, right? Just, I was gonna get it passed just because a lot of people didn't understand just the essence of yoga, what it is, what's the mantras, what's the chants, and all those things. So in the bill, basically they agreed if I took all the Sanskrit out, all the what they call religious undertone out, that I could actually get bipartisanship. So that's kind of where that particular thing came from. They just included namaste as just a singular word, but it's really no transcripts, no anything that's not what they deem as English
Right.
translation.
Right. But I'm struck by the fact that it's almost like banning saying hello.
Yeah, no, yeah.
How do you? I mean, there is nothing. There is no religious undertone there.
That's no,
So,
that's true. That's true.
are they genuinely that ignorant, or they know what they are doing and they are still doing it?
Well, what happens is a lot of my colleagues they're older. I mean, they're white men, at age of 65 is probably their average age in the House and the Senate. So they're very old. They're very conservative, and so a lot of them have never taken yoga. Right? Maybe their wife have. That's why they voted for the bill, because their wife said, "You have to be crazy. I do yoga," and so that's how they were able to relate to it. But a lot of the women in the House and the Senate, they were okay with the bill because see, they do yoga. They
Right.
understand it. You know, I got teased a lot about, why are we taking namaste out of the bill? I mean, out of yoga, right? It's part of it. You do that at the end of class. They understand that. But a lot of my other colleagues, in the House and the Senate Where even when I was kind of debating like mindfulness and meditation, trying to get them to take some of that language out that was in a original amendment, one of the senators said, "Well, I don't know. I never done yoga," and I basically said, "Well, essentially, that's the reason you should bring amendments because you don't actually know about yoga or this bill because you have no knowledge of it." And then when you have those conservative groups like an Eagle Forum who come out and say that they'll convert your kids into Hindu and Hinduism, you just have a lot of different conversations. And whoever has the biggest speaker, and a lot of times that's the conservative side in Alabama, that's where the fear comes from. So most of my colleagues could be on board with yoga if I kind of took all the connotation out that they deem, as spiritual or Eastern philosophy or anything of that nature. So I had to think, right? You can't get everything you want, especially not when you're in the super minority, right? So I was like, what is a big deal for me? Is that a big deal? Not really, because you can. It's about meditation for me, being able to do the exercise. So I compromised there, right? And I thought that was enough to actually get the bill passed. And then what happened
Right.
some more amendments come, but it still shows you the fear and that phobia that people still have around something that everyone does. Racial centers, our prisons, our universities, our sports athletic teams do it, and so everyone else is doing it in Alabama, but we're trying to make it seem like, oh, K through 12 public schools, there's no way that's going to happen. We're going to convert kids and all those things, but Christianity is still the number one religion in Alabama by far. So it's not converting anyone. And a lot of Christians do yoga. I have people that say they do it at their Methodist church, their Catholic church. So
You are a practicing Christian yourself, right?
yeah, yes. Mm-hmm.
And you don't see any conflict. Anyway, I was especially also struck by the nomenclature saying that you cannot use the Sanskrit terms and you
Yeah.
have to have
Mm-hmm.
English names. So, who came up with that and who's going to devise those names now?
So that's another thing, essentially through talking through educators and the state superintendent, there would be no one actually policing this. It won't, if a teacher is a yoga instructor and she slips and says namaste, or she says one of the Sanskrit words, there will be no one there to kind of police that. So it really was silly and in the beginning to try to put so many constraints around it, because there would actually the only person that governs how yoga would be in the school would be the board of education. But the board of education is not in the school, right? The board of education won't come to the school each and every time someone is doing yoga. So I thought that it really made it more complicated when it could have just been easy and just allow yoga into schools, and it would have went a lot smoother, because traditionally, especially when you're teaching kids, you use terms like downward dog, upward dog, cobra. You use terminology like that because kids can understand that, and then they can associate with the animals or tree pose and things of that nature. So you kind of already do that anyway, especially when you're doing a beginner's class and they may not understand some of the Sanskrit words. So I just didn't really see the use of it, right? Everyone has their style of teaching yoga. You can go to 100 yoga classes and you will see a different spiel each time, because it's all about your uniqueness. You use the terminology you want to use. You kind of do the flow, or you can do a power yoga, hot yoga. It's just so many different phases of it. I just thought that I didn't think that it would be a big deal if they just would allow yoga in school as is, that as we know yoga today. It would have been Americanized or Westernized because it already is, right? And so I just didn't see the point of it when you can go to a local gym or anywhere else and it just seems like everyone is relaxing, having a good time, and exercising. So
There are two main points. One is you
go ahead.
got your main objective of lifting the ban. That's done. And the second, as
Yeah,
you talked
yeah.
about, there is not going to be any serious policing about what terms are being used. I think even for the Republican side, it is perhaps a sort of a symbolic victory that they
That's
got
it.
that
That's it.
language in, and
That's
they
it.
couldn't care less whether it is enforced or not, right?
That's it. That's all it's about. It's all about them getting their win. So within my win, they got their win, and then it plays to the conservative groups and the conservative people in Alabama.
I suppose overall it's fair that everyone is happy and the yoga is back, right?
Well, I guess. I mean, I can. I'm a little bit happy. It could have. It could
Okay.
have. I wish it would have stayed like the bill was originally, because it would have gave me less work to do. Now it's just more work to do and just more stuff in the bill. But hopefully, we come to a day where through it being in school, people notice it, and people become more educated through all the events that have occurred through this bill. And one day they wake up and say, "We're just going to allow yoga in schools with no barriers, and we're going to start a pilot program to actually keep up with data to see is it actually helping the kids mentally and physically, and how it's working." Because you want to do things, but you want to make sure you're doing something and that's being effective. And we only can get to that point when we allow yoga in its full essence and fund it. And
Right.
so that's kind of where I'm looking to go with it.
Sure. And finally, what has been the response from the Indian American groups to your success?
Well, most of them when they understand just America and how things go in America, they're happy because they're thinking about a 28-year ban on yoga, and thought about back in 2019, I couldn't even get the bill passed out of the House or the Senate, or even barely out of committee to actually getting it passed. I think a lot of them think that is a step in the right direction, but then you have those other ones who are like, if you can't accept yoga in its fullness, then you don't need to do it, which I understand. But my thing is that we're in America.
Right.
America is one of those places throughout history. It's always been the culture or the America that has robbed people of certain traditions and things of that nature. And so my thing is that if we didn't do it at all, we wouldn't be helping anyone. So I
Right.
felt like that, just understanding politics and understanding that sometime in life you have to compromise. I think that it's at least in the middle, right? I
Sure.
think that it's not perfect. It's not illegal anymore, but at least we can do it, and we can start to mend that relationship with Eastern
Yeah.
culture in India, and through just education and time, we'll get there. But we have to start somewhere.
Right. Now, I personally see this as a good success. The fact that yoga is back is good enough. The rest is a matter of detail. For instance,
Yeah,
if a young student is doing yoga, what he or she is thinking in their mind, no one is going to know whether you're praying to Jesus or you're praying to someone else.
yeah.
It's utterly irrelevant here, right?
That's right. It's just your choice. It's just you may just be thinking nothing, right? You might just
Exactly.
essentially yeah. So so it really
You
just
may be thinking about Beyonce for all you care. So
yeah.
how does it matter, right?
Yeah.